It's every parent's fear. They raise a child and put them through school, but when the time comes for the child to enter the real world, they fail to launch. It's far from uncommon today for 20-somethings to delay their adult lives to stay in the nest. Experts now recognize that it takes a little longer to grow up than it used to. They've even created a new life stage to describe it: emerging adulthood.
It's been a steady pattern over the last 50 years that people make the transitions to adulthood later than they used to. So more of them stay in more education for longer than ever before. The marriage age is higher than it's ever been. And the age of entering parenthood is also at its highest level ever. So it really is true that 30 is the new 20, and it takes longer to grow up than in the past. And now there's this new life stage of emerging adulthood in the 20s, where people are on their way to growing up, but not there yet.
That's Dr. Jeffrey Jensen Arnett, a professor of research psychology at Clark University and author of the new book, When Will My Grown-Up Child Grow Up? Loving and Understanding Your Emerging Adult. It's an apt title. Understanding is something a lot of parents need. A lot of them are concerned that their kids are falling behind or that maybe mom and dad didn't prepare them for the real world. But Arnett says that playing the blame game is probably misguided. He believes the delayed start to adult life isn't necessarily anyone's fault, just a series of cultural changes.
It's an economic change first and foremost. The fact that we've made a shift in the last 50 years from a mainly manufacturing economy to an economy that's based more on information and technology and services means that people need more education and training and experience in the workplace to develop the skills that will fit the new economy. So that's one of the things that makes adulthood come later. It means it takes longer before people find a stable job.
Arnett says the women's movement also helped bring young women's ambitions to the surface. This means more women in their 20s have put off marriage for the chance to pursue career goals. The sexual revolution has also had an impact on marriage age and what's considered normal when it comes to our sex lives.
It made it possible to have an active sex life without babies necessarily coming along. And so that really transformed how we view sexuality, and it made cohabitation normative. Now 2/3 of emerging adults cohabit before marriage.
These changes all come together to alter the life of an American 20-something from just a generation or two ago.
So all those changes together are really what have made this new life stage of emerging adulthood and have made the 20s so much different now than they were 50 years ago. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's in some ways a good thing that people have more time now to try out different options before they make commitments that they're going to have for life. It is a bad thing in some ways, in the sense that some of them have trouble finding their way and do a lot of floundering in the course of their 20s.
But this delay in adulthood doesn't affect just those in their 20s. It also requires parents to adjust. After getting used to an empty nest, letting children move back in may be a struggle. Some parents could see a need to set a time frame on how long they allow their children to stay. However, Arnett says that the kids often don't want to move home any more than their parents want them to.
The kids are not moving home in order to just loaf around and sponge off mom and dad. I mean, that's the popular stereotype, but it's almost never true. They're almost always moving home out of necessity. So they lost their job, or they left school and couldn't find a job, or they ended a cohabiting relationship, or they had some kind of physical or mental health crisis. It's almost always something like that. They would prefer to live on their own. They move home out of necessity, and they look forward to the day when they can move out again. So it's not like you need to light a fire under them. In most cases, they really would prefer to live independently.
Parents also have the challenge of learning how to give guidance to someone who doesn't necessarily need or want parenting the way they once did. Arnett covers how to offer advice without overstepping the boundaries of emerging adults.
So when your kids are young, you decide where they go to school and what they do on the weekends and who their friends are and where they live. And you get used to that control, and you want to arrange life for your kids so that it's as good as possible. Then kids get to be in their 20s, and you might still think you have a lot of good ideas about what they should do and where they should do it and who they should do it with, but they don't have to listen anymore. And so it's important for parents to accept that they don't have the same authority that they used to, and that they really have to step back and let their kids make their own decision.
Arnett doesn't think this means unplugging completely from their kids' lives, though. He says while parents need to take a step back, they should still let their kids know they're around if they need them.
So it is important to stay connected, and parents want to stay connected. They love their kids even when the kids leave home, and they want to still let their kids know that they care about them, they support them, they're there to nurture them if they need it. At the same time, it's important for parents to step back and accept the fact that they don't have the control that they did when the kids were younger.
While these changes are the new normal for people in their 20s, Arnett does acknowledge that there are a select few who really do fail to launch. However, he believes that parents should investigate for additional problems before they decide that the issue is laziness.
There is a small proportion of kids who really don't want to grow up and really do want to just take advantage of their parents' goodwill as long as possible. But it's a very small percentage. Usually when kids are not doing anything to move their lives forward in their 20s, it's a sign of some other problem. Either they have a substance use problem or they are suffering from some kind of mental or physical health problem. They might be depressed. That's actually quite common during their 20s. So it's important to think first whether it might be one of those things before coming to the judgment that your kid is just lazy and doesn't want to reach adulthood. That almost never happens.
However, this new life stage does seem exclusive to those families with the means to support a grown-up kid. Some families need kids to go to work at a very young age and grow up a little quicker.
Emerging adulthood is really a luxury of an affluent society. I mean, there are a lot of societies around the world even now where they really need the labor of their kids by the time the kids are even 8, 10, 12 years old. They need them to go to work to help contribute to the family. We don't need that by and large.
But for those parents who do have an emerging adult, Arnett believes setting goals is the best way to ensure that kids actually do launch and make the jump from emerging to full-on adulthood.
One of the things we talk a lot about in the book is to develop a plan with a capital P. So think about where you want your life to be 5 years from now and 10 years from now, and then chart the steps that you would need to take in order to get there. Often people do flounder in their 20s for some years because they don't have a plan. They're just sort of bouncing from one thing to the next, falling into a job here and then falling into another job, and doing the same with relationships. So I think it helps a lot to think systematically about it. What do you want your life to look like? And what are the steps to get there? I think a lot of people find that helpful.
Arnett says that the vast majority of 20-somethings do eventually grow up and come out on the other side as adults, although it's later than in the past. This new life stage seems to be proving the age-old adage, 30 really is the new 20. You can find more information about the book When Will My Grown-Up Kid Grow Up at jeffreyarnett.com. Our writer this week is Molly Nagel. Our production director is Sean Waldron. I'm Nancy Benson.
Tackle your first do-it-yourself project of the year. Replace that old carpet with easy-to-install floors from Lumber Liquidators. This week, get it done for less with incredible deals on DIY-friendly Brazilian cherry laminate. It's our thickest and best, and it's less than $1. Or get the gorgeous look of oak from just 49 cents. Plus, unbeatable deals on pre-finished solid hardwood, bamboo, vinyl plank, and more for about half of what you'd pay somewhere else. And get special financing. Don't put off that DIY project. Get rid of your dingy carpet and visit lumberliquidators.com to find a store near you.
Attention men, are you urinating often, waking at night to urinate? We want to send you a free bottle of Super Beta Prostate, made with a natural ingredient that supports healthy urine flow, bladder emptying, and is shown to reduce waking at night from the urge to urinate. You can try Super Beta Prostate free, only pay shipping and handling. This free giveaway is available while supplies last. For details, just call 800-519-0464. That's 800-519-0464. Call 800-519-0464.